Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was good. That went right to my shoulder.
Mhm.
All the
Mhm.
pulp right in there. I think there might be a reason Charlie can't hear it is he's probably got some pretty sophisticated hearing aids, and they do block out certain sounds, certain background things. Matthew's
Oh,
hearing aids do that. If there's something in
okay.
the background, it sort of mutes it.
Okay.
Wow.
Um, it's
That's weird.
the newer technology. I forgot what it's called, but Matthew's got them on his, and sometimes, like if we're in a restaurant, he doesn't hear the background noise. He only hears
Hmm.
me speaking. So that
Well,
might have something to do with it.
there's three different settings,
Right.
and he's probably not on the right setting.
Yeah, that's probably what's going on. It's probably
Because
not
I
his
can do that
computer.
too. I can set it to different settings for different venues.
Right. Yeah. Matthew actually uses his phone to make his settings. He doesn't have to touch the hearing aids at all.
Oh,
Um, Technology, they can have it.
Yeah, I guess, huh?
Yeah. All right, Cindy, you're in the hot seat.
Don't make it too difficult now.
I'm not. I'm not. Okay, so most of us know that you were introduced to the ministry by Laura, but what actually drew you to want to actually take a look at us and come online?
The word interfaith drew me in because I took time to research a lot of different religions, and I just liked the fact that it was all about the belief in a higher power, not necessarily a belief in a certain religion and their ways, which many of them are, in my eyes, man-made rule. Um, and just the community, the comfort zone, the energy of the women, um, is what drew me in. Yeah.
Okay, so once you got sucked into us, um, what actually encouraged you to stay and not only become a minister, but go all the way up through bishop? Because a lot of people don't do that.
Well, I would say that Laura uh, is very instrumental in helping me move this high. Um, yeah. To be honest with you, Terry helped ordain me, and I don't know. I know Laura remembers, but when I was ordained, I was so moved to emotion that I literally was sitting there sobbing. And when I try to talk to people about my experience, I can't put words to it because I really felt like I was touched by God in a certain way that I can't put verbal words to it. But something moved me to the deepest, most strongest emotion of love
Mm-hmm.
um, that I had never experienced before. And I have a picture to prove it. Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah. That was, and I think if you remember, Laura, did I not I was like euphoric on the plane ride home, right? I
Yeah.
kept on telling Laura, I can't explain it. I can't put words to it. But she felt me. So she kind of experienced with me, I think. Yeah. That was beautiful. That was definitely one of the most inspirational moments in my life. Definitely.
So you sort of felt like for the first time in your life, you were surrounded by unconditional love.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what being ordained to me did to me too. Is so yeah, and that's good. We're glad you decided to stay. And
Thank you.
now, when you were panicking on the phone, you mentioned an incident that happened to you. You in a bird bath when you were 3 years old. You want to elucidate on that one?
I do. I do because I think that that whole experience in my childhood has really helped to create the human that I turned into.
Mhm.
And I don't share this story for sympathy. I share this story for strength and perseverance and belief. And basically, in a nutshell, when I was 3 years old, I was on my tricycle and I was trying to put bread in a bird bath, which was iron cast, very heavy, and the ground developed a sinkhole. So the bird bath fell on my face. And when this happened, my brother and my two neighborhood kids were with me, which ended up becoming my two stepsisters later on in life. Anyway, and when that accident happened, the bird bath fell on my face, broke my cheekbones, my jaw, my nose, and my right tear duct. A man driving by the street saw the commotion, pulled over on the side of the road. My brother ran to the house to get my mother. The door was locked. He banged on the window. She came out, and off we went to the emergency room. And the story is my mother held up my body at the window so people would let us go to the hospital because it was like an emergency. And when we arrived, I was 3 years old, and I was pretty much given my last rites because they didn't think I was going to survive this. And so from 3 to 13, every single year, I would have to go have plastic surgery on my face because, as you know, your face changes. And then when I was 13, I got the artificial tear duct put in, and that was my last surgery. But people in my younger years in grade school were very cruel. I was bird bath face, pug nose, pus eye, because my eye used to get sleepy stuff in it before my tear duct came at 13. And my mother was an abusive alcoholic. So was she an abusive alcoholic from my accident? I don't know. But with that being said, she got sober when I was 17, and I got to spend some really great, healthy years with her. But as far as my accident, it taught me that in the young eyes of a child, I had these thoughts in my head, which were, I'm going to do something with my life. I'm going to be somebody. You watch and see. I'm going to get through this. Everybody in the family thought I'd turn into my mother. And everybody in the family thought that because I was a partying teenager, that I was going to turn into some crazy drug addict. Did I experience? I'd be lying if I said no. But, then I fell in love and had children, and that changed my life. Yeah. So that helped me. I worked at the teen center for 15 years because I like young kids, because I remember how hard it was for me. And I wanted kids to know they had someone to talk to, someone to listen to, and someone to share that you can persevere through anything if you really want to.
You can
Yeah.
beat the odds. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. So it's basically formed your personality through those years because of
Mhm.
what you had to put up with.
Mhm.
And hopefully it gave you the confidence to be who you wanted to be instead of being what they expected
Absolutely.
you, because
I
people's
would not want
expectations.
my life to be any other way, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't be who I am. Our experiences are great teachers in life,
Mhm.
and you can let them own you. Like I could have been the, oh, poor me child and gotten into the drugs and drinking because, oh, poor Cindy. But I always had that fight in me. I think like I had this angel on my shoulder all through my younger years, that was always with me, and like, you can get through this.
Mhm. And you did.
Yeah. Hmm.
And you did. Um, different tact. Can you share with us about your team from your town that we made masks? Sally and I made masks for through COVID.
The Community Emergency Response Team is a team that we are trained in disaster preparedness and awareness. We're also trained in doing traffic, because in the state of Connecticut, you can't just like put anybody in the middle of the road to do traffic now. They have to be legally trained how to do that. And it was important to me to be able to be part of somebody in my community that could help my community know what to do. So we had pamphlets and we did outreach stuff. We did a lot of COVID vaccination clinics. Um, and hand out literature and masks. And I was the team leader in Stafford for 12 years. And then we got an emergency management director with a big ego that didn't know how to respect women. So, needless to say, I no longer am a team leader in Stafford. I now join the Ellington CERT team. And they're amazing, and they're a bigger team, and they're great people, very receptive. Their community receives them and appreciates them. Stafford, like the fire departments didn't like us. Like, why? I don't want to jump into any of your burning houses, dude. I just want to help people,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But, in a small town, you deal with stuff like that, silliness. Yeah.
Egos.
So,
Yeah.
so now I like it that I'm not the team leader because it was a big responsibility. And I let someone else do it, and I'm just a member, and I just show up for the meetings every month. So I'm happy with that.
So
Yeah.
they're kind of like a disaster preparedness group.
Yep.
So
Yes.
that if we got a hurricane, they would
Yep.
be helping find housing for people and clothing and food.
Right. And when we do workshops, we try to talk to people about getting a crate together and put emergency things in it like batteries, flashlights, bandage equipment, things that, you don't necessarily think about. But if there was an emergency and something happened, what are the things you would want to take with you? You know?
Good point.
So it's important. And I think many of us don't do that because it's a negative area to think about.
Right.
And nobody wants to really think about that. But knowledge is power. And I'll just leave it at that, Yeah.
Well, it's good to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we think of that because we heat with wood and
Mm-hmm.
we're on the grid, and the grid goes out quite frequently here.
Mm-hmm.
So we have candles and stuff. But anyway, hey,
Right.
Charlie, you made it. Good morning.
Good morning, Charlie.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, so let's talk about some of your hospice work. How did you get into working with hospice?
Well,
why?
I was 17 when I became a CNA, and I worked at a convalescent home third shift for many years. I never left the medical path until I became a mother and my twins were 5. And then I ended up working on construction for 5 or 6 years, but then went back to medical and never left it again. I found it important to be there for people in a difficult time. Dying is a part of everybody's life, but it's not something that we all, talk about because it's not something we all necessarily want to think about. And I felt that I wanted to try to make a difference. And with my hospice cases, when you go into a case, you meet someone at a different part of their journey or their illness. And it just was for me all about showing up and respecting where they are, and just being gentle and trying to make their end of life journey a pleasant one. And I always tell people, you can bring humor into the most difficult times. And I'll just tell you one quick story. And this happened a couple years ago. I had a hospice case, and the man went very quickly. And when it happened, and he was close, his wife realized, oh, we can't have them come from the crematory to pick up my husband. He doesn't have any underwear on. And I just looked at her and I says, underwear. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's go find him a pair. So we went into her bedroom and she opened up his drawer. And in the drawer was this bright yellow pair of underwear with a happy face on it, with the tongue sticking out. And I picked up those underwear and I just looked at her and I says, tell me these aren't the underwear you want to put on them. And she looked at me and she grabbed them from my hand and she goes, yes, these are the underwear I want on, Bob. Yes. So I went in the room and I put him on him and I got him all washed up and all clean and his hands felt and sheet covering up to his neck. And then they came to pick him up and two females came, not a male, guy from a crematory, but two females dressed in nice skirted suits. And I says to the women, I says, well, thank you for showing up. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. We really appreciate you being here. And I just want to give you one last reminder of in the most difficult times in life, we can also bring humor. And I walked up to him and I took the sheet and I very slowly pulled it down. Well, when these two women saw his underwear, I thought they were going to fall on the floor. They were caught so off guard. One of them almost was to tears laughing. And it was just like, and to this day, I still visit his wife and she will never forget that. And she has dementia. So she doesn't remember anything, but she will never forget that. So that's my little silly story about my hospice care.
That's
So it
amazing.
can be hard. A
want
lot of people say, I don't know how you do it.
What'd you say,
Huh?
Charlie?
He wants a pair of those
a pair of that underwear. I want it.
We'll see if we can find some for you, just in case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people forget
And
that.
knowing your passion, is a gift from God. And I truly believe that this is why I'm here. Yeah.
I believe you're right. Yeah, and people do forget that, it's not all doom and gloom when somebody's dying, having been with many people as
Right.
they were leaving. People were still joking. I remember one of my patients died in the nursing home I worked at, and the undertaker came in, and I cracked a joke, and he looked at me and he goes, "It's nice to see somebody can laugh in the face of death." I said, "It's just a transition, man." That's a new
Right.
beginning for this person, and she's out of her misery because she also had committed suicide, which wasn't very nice. But it is what it is, because you have to remember we may be dying, but we're human, and we still need to laugh.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you were the nurse's aide that always made sure a dying person looked good, was
Yes. Oh, yeah.
clean, was
Many times other A's would say to me, they're dead. Why do you got to wash them? And I would be like, because that's
really,
the right thing to do.
yeah, yeah.
And I always held their hands.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Did you ever find that your patients would actually wait for you? They would wait for you so they could die because they were so comfortable with you?
Yes, I have.
I figured
I've
that.
had some ask me not to leave because they
Mm.
knew, and I stayed with them, of
But they
course.
knew you weren't afraid.
Right. I didn't have the fear.
Right.
Yeah. My
And
last hospice case was probably the most challenging, the one that I just did.
mhm.
And this woman weighed under 60 pounds when she took her last breath.
Oh,
And I have never seen or dealt with anything like it. The will of a human being. She didn't want to go at Christmas. She had to get her Social Security check, and it came on the 1st, and she died on the 1st. How did that happen? I don't understand. But with that being said, I will be honest with you. I was having a hard time with my faith and the strength of my faith because I saw her suffer so much. You're a nurse. One of the
mhm.
worst ways of passing is malnutrition.
Yeah. It can be
But
painful.
it's like I don't know the whole story as to how she got there,
Hmm.
you know? So I just came in when I was needed.
Yeah.
But that was hard to see and understand, I guess, her suffering and not even getting how that heart could keep that body going when it was just so frail. And she was so ready to go home to be with her son who just passed.
Hmm.
And she was a born again Christian. So she was a challenge for me. She asked me a lot of questions. How come I honored Mother Mary? She didn't understand that. She was interesting, but she respected my feelings just like I respected her religion,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, some Now, she didn't have dementia though, right?
Not at all.
Okay. Some
Um,
people, I mean, I've had some dementia patients that would literally stop eating, but would last for a month, not eating
mhm,
much of anything, until
mhm,
somebody threatened to put a tube down their throat or stick an IV in their arm.
mhm.
And it's a strength of will. If they
Yeah.
get something in their head, that they're going
Mhm,
to hang on till that check comes or till everybody's birthday is done or whatever. They can do that. And that's
yep.
the marvel, I think, of the human will, the
It's
human
amazing.
spirit. Yeah. Her spirit
Because
kept her alive.
how do you explain medically with what was going on in this inside of that frail body, how
Hmm.
it is that that heart could keep her going? It's like a miracle.
Well, it also, the heart probably slowed down quite a bit so that it wasn't challenged.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, yes, everything fed off what little fat she probably had. But
Hmm.
yeah, I've seen people get down to like 40 pounds before they went. It just depends on what they were being strong about.
Hmm.
um,
Yep.
but that's great that you can understand that. And that's probably why you are so valued as a hospice person, because you're not afraid of death. It's not a four-letter word to you.
Right.
You're not afraid to be, as a matter of fact, you're willing, more than willing, to sit there and hold their hand at the end. And a lot of people are not, especially
Hmm.
family.
Well, many people, and a lot of people probably don't know this because they don't do this work, but for some people, there's a big fear of being alone, dying
Yeah.
alone,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Which we know you don't, but they feel like they're
Right.
alone.
And then I'm
Um,
all about I'm all about touch. I'm so all about that. Even when a person is so far gone, they can't know who you are. I'm all about the touch. I have actually seen before my eyes someone be very, very sick and at the end of life. And when you touch their hand and you hold their hand for a while, you can feel their body relaxing.
mhm,
So I'm all about this, the touch and knowing that they know that someone's there for them.
right. And humans need that touch, and a
Hmm.
lot of people don't touch the elderly. They're afraid it's catchy. Yeah,
Hmm.
well, it is. We're all headed there. But yeah, but I mean, a lot of people just run when somebody's dying. I had a husband who loved his wife dearly, but when he saw the end coming, he came and got me and he said, "You sit with her. I can't deal with this." And he left the
Hmm.
room until she passed quietly. And I went and told him, and then he came and did his grieving. So it's just not something a lot of people can deal with. So bless you for being able to sit there bravely, and go through it. You basically go through it with them. You know,
In a
you
sense,
you
yeah.
you help their transition by being there, being
Hmm.
quiet and loving, and sending your energy to them. Um, and that probably helps them pass more peacefully because you're there. And that's just absolutely wonderful. So, one last thing. Tell us a little bit about your family, because I don't think I ever met. Did I ever meet your girls? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I have identical twin girls that just turned 40 this year, and they are a true joy. Unfortunately, I married a man that didn't want children. Whoops.
Oh
So
well.
when they were 5, and my neighbor came up to me one day and said, how come you don't work? I was so offended. I wanted to smack the guy. I'm like, dude, who do you think takes care of these kids?
Yeah, right.
And so he basically said, hey, listen, if you can come up with $250 to join the union, I'll get you a job on construction. So that's what I did. I helped build a charter oak bridge for 5 years, and I had a free attorney because I was a union member. So that paid for my divorce.
Good.
And I met my husband when my children were 9. I divorced when they were 5. And then we had 2 more children together. I have a son who is 27 and a daughter who's 29. And everybody lives away from home except for my daughter, Nicole. She lives with us with her 5-year-old daughter. And each one of the twins has children. Stephanie has three, ranging from 13 to 20, and Megan has two. One that does not live with her, who was a very hard problem child, that now lives with his father. But she has her daughter that lives with her. So I have six grandchildren and an amazing husband. An amazing husband. He's very, he did a lot of my walk and my journey with me, over at Mike and Martha's when we used to do all those classes and Tuesday night meditations and, Marion with the medicine wheel. Like John did a lot of the stuff, when we invited the guys and it wasn't a woman's circle. So it was nice. We built a sweat lodge on our land. So yeah, he's got to experience a lot with me as a family.
Cool. Cool. That's all the questions I have. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I had one. My hearing isn't all that great, as you know. I think you said you divorced when your twins were 5 years old. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
And then you went on to have two more children with the same person?
No, I remarried.
Oh, okay. That's part I missed.
Yeah, I remarried. Yeah. Yeah.
Where is you still have your sweat lodge?
No, we've moved. We don't have that house any longer. We had a house in Stafford with 10 acres of land. And unfortunately, my husband got very hurt at work and he was basically disabled. And we lost the house. So we rent a house. We still live in Stafford. But no, we don't have the sweat lodge anymore. No, but we did have a lot of sweats there. So it was really cool. And then there was a really bad storm one time. And this was when my grandson was 13. And we brought him up to the sweat lodge and he could not believe that there was no damage to the sweat lodge. And he also couldn't believe, you'll appreciate this one, Charlie, that my husband got dirt to put in the fire pit using a bucket with a hole in it. Okay. A hole in it. And I'm telling you right now, he filled the bucket with sand and brought dirt in there. And my grandson said he doesn't understand how that could be.
Wow, big hole.
Yep. It was a very big hole. It didn't make any sense why it would hold dirt. There was a very small edge around it. That was it. There was a big hole in the bottom of it. And like I said, there was a very bad storm and nothing got damaged on the sweat lodge. Just everywhere around it was all winded and blown, but the sweat lodge was protected, I believe, in my heart. Yeah.
Yeah. When your patient got down to 60 pounds, I mean, she must have been all skin and bones, right?
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally like a concentration camp victim. It was very sad to have to see. Yes.
It reminded me of my mother when she was ill. She had the heart to stay and live a lot longer, but her body deteriorated horribly. Which, you talked about suffering, and God knows in this life, suffering exists big time. The thing that makes the bridge, or I guess I'm not sure how to put this. But anyway, there's a pair of opposites in life, and the thing that heals the bridge between the pair of opposites and suffering is definitely one of the extremities of life. Is the consciousness of oneness, wholeness. And so when we're able to not make the appearances all important, when we're able to put that aside in our consciousness, and when you're able to touch her, then the transmission of your your love, your caring, your compassion gets through to her because you're not jaded by the way she looks or her suffering. But you found the compassion within you and it reached the compassion within her, and that's what brings the peace that passes understanding.
Hmm.
Well put. Yeah.
Very
I
well
think
put.
anybody who does any kind of hospice care, whether it's inadvertent or called that, um, has to have something different in them that they can give, or they're something that we all have, but other people are afraid to give. Let me rephrase that. Um, and people who are dying, people who are demented, know that they can tell that about you. Um, they can see in you what others cannot see. They can see the real you, the compassion that you have. They can feel, obviously. But I think that's the gift of the dying, is to be able to see the real person
Hmm.
who's around them. And they're usually grateful for it because they know everybody else has run away because they're afraid of that four-letter word. Um, so I think anybody who does any kind of hospice care is a very, very special person. But
Yeah,
I agree, Cindy, that what happened to you early in your life also gave you a little window into what could have happened,
Hmm.
and didn't. So,
Hmm.
yeah, you're right. The things that happen to us make us who we are.
Right.
Um,
Teachers. Yes.
yeah, and we all have many teachers, and some of those teachers are illnesses, um, and some of them are people. But some of my best lessons, I think, came from my dying patients, um,
Oh, yeah.
watching their bravery, watching their stamina, what they how they chose to live. Um, because a lot of people take a long time to die.
Mm.
A lot of people do it quickly, but um, many people take a long time because they have a goal.
Right.
So, anybody else got any questions? We still have some time.
I'm curious about how you still parent your adult children as they move through their phases in life.
How do I parent my adult children? Um, I'm very close with my kids. Um, I talk to them not every day, but a couple times a week anyway. Um, I'm very close with my son. My son used to have a drinking problem and a drug problem, and being incarcerated was the what I prayed for him. Well, not necessarily that. I prayed for an intervention, and I told God, I'll be okay with whatever you give me. So yeah, he is now sober and clean, and doing well and healthy, living in New Hampshire. Um, I think I've been the best parent I could be to my kids. They know my story. I've never candy coated anything, and I've been, the best parent I could be to my kids. And I think that's what makes us be a close family.
Beautiful. And how
And
often do you
faith,
see your grands?
faith. That's another thing. Faith. I have to put that in there.
Mhm.
There's faith in my family. And what I see too much of today is families growing up with children, and there's nothing taught. And it just really makes me want to cry. How do you get through life without having faith? I can't wrap my head around it, but so I'm very glad that I have instilled that in my children.
Beautiful.
and the Bible talks about faith, hope, and charity, and it
Hmm.
picks picks the one that they think's the best. But the absolute best is love.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's all about love. You're right, Charlie.
With your hospice work, do you find you have any skills or gifts that you would call mediumship or psychic or any of that, or is it more faith-based?
I'm pretty good at knowing when my people are close to going. I don't ever share that with the families because that's my gift. They, you know what I'm saying? I don't go there, I guess, when I'm doing my cases. But I think that, yeah, I do. This year, it will be 50 years. I'm 67 years old. My husband's like, you should be celebrating that. I put a small thing on my Facebook page. I said, but then everybody's going to know how old I am, honey.
Oh, well,
Anyway,
and
no, it's something to be celebrated. And one of my girlfriends said to me, she goes, you know, Cindy, do you realize you spent more of your life living, dealing with death than you have living? And she goes, you need to think about that. And I'm like, but you know what? At the end of the day, I'm doing what I love and I'm living my passion. I'm okay with that. I don't know.
No, as long as you still have that passion,
Hmm.
that's where you stay. It's when the passion runs out that you move
Right.
on.
Right.
So,
And that's
and
actually how we met, was doing hospice with visiting nurses.
Yeah.
That's how
At a
Cindy
hospice
met.
recognition dinner, and Laura was talking to me about Reiki. And me being a Sagittarian, I'm like, Reiki? Yeah, energy? I don't know. This lady's a little weird. But anyway, I was like, she just, because I'm a Sagittarian and we could be very curious people. And we like to know, we like to see, because I couldn't get sucked into any of this stuff if I didn't see, what would happen. And, so I started taking Reiki courses from her. And of course, Laura being Laura, she likes to master her girls or guys, anybody that she does. So she did push me into mastering, and I did. But the first time we did a meditation to meet our spirit guide, oh my God, that was like crazy. I had this monk come to me with this gold crystal ball in his hand. And it was such a visual and it was such an amazing experience that I was like, oh my God, there must be something real to this, because that was just too crazy. I did not think this up. So, yeah, that was another thing that happened that was an eye-opening experience for me. Yeah.
cool.
Does your monk with the crystal ball have a name?
I have a crystal ball on my dresser next to my grid. And no, I don't have a name for it, Charlie.
Okay.
Should I?
There's no shoulds in life. My wife used to teach classes and say, don't shit all over yourself.
Amen. Yeah. Amen to that.
It's just curious. I too am curious, and if I have an experience like that, I kind of like to know where it's coming from, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, my Reiki guide is a very small Chinese man with a beard that's braided and wears black silks, and his name is Chen Li.
Yeah.
He's always with me when I do Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Laura, do you think you've had past lives as a Chinese person,
As a monk,
as a monk? Yeah.
I took a channeling class once with Jean Mandeville. Some of you know her.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And I channeled a monk, and it was the weirdest thing, because as soon as the channeling started, I bowed my head and folded my arms, and I was silent. But one of the women in the class, Martha, she knew exactly what I was trying to say, and so she interpreted what I was trying to say. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So I think I was a monk in a previous life. And I think that's why I'm drawn to all the Tibetan stuff too. Because I
Could
think
be.
I'm a monk.
Yeah.
No, in groups I've been in healing years ago, we all felt we had a connection to Tibet, being monks in Tibet. Yeah.
So Cindy, you talk
I-
about having to know as a Sagittarian, having to see it and prove it and all these things. What about the sweat lodge? What were some of your experiences in the purification ceremonies?
Oh my goodness. Um, well, I learned a lot from a Native American man whose father was a medicine man, Fool's Crow. And
Wow, I know that.
just all the stuff that I learned from him. As a matter of fact, we have Fool Crow's cane. When Wolf passed away, he gifted it to my husband.
Oh,
And it's really amazing. And I'm telling you right now, um, we have a friend that went through breast cancer, and we went over to visit them. And John was very moved to bring the cane,
mhm.
and he brought it. And he had Lucy sit with the cane, and she sat with the cane.
Wow.
And it wasn't long after that, she went to one of her doctor's appointments. And you know how they have goals, like with your radiation and chemo and that kind of
Mm.
thing, depending on what your progression is. They shortened the weeks of her therapy, and she is clear from cancer to this day.
Beautiful.
Did the cane do it? I don't know, possibly. But
Yeah.
if you look up this guy Fool's Crow, it's
Yeah.
amazing. And then the whole story with the bucket, and how do you have a sweat lodge and nothing gets like damaged around it? Something was protecting it. So it visually showed me something transpired here.
Yeah.
How does that happen? How do I explain to my grandson how my husband filled a bucket with sand and there's a hole in the bucket? I mean, it just things that you couldn't explain. It's like, okay. And then it just made me realize that, you know what? Not everything is for us to understand. Some
Right.
things in life are just for us to experience. It doesn't mean that we have to understand everything. I think it's just in our human instincts that we want to know why, right?
Mm.
So that whole journey with the whole Native American thing taught me to honor things that really matter, like the earth, the air, the fire, and the water, things that nobody talk about today because, they're just assumed to, be there for us. And those things are important because without these things, we wouldn't have life. So it taught me to reground myself a lot with Mother Nature, which was a gift.
Beautiful.
Tell us more about your relationship with Mother Mary. Where did that start?
Well, I was brought up Catholic, and I went to church. I did everything, every Saturday classes, Holy Communion, confirmation, the whole thing. And having to go every Saturday and tell my sins. And I always sat there, and my father made us sit in the front because it was important that, the priests see us at church. And on the left side of the altar was a statue, a wooden statue of Jesus in an enclosed wooden case. And on the right hand side of the altar was Mother Mary. And all through my teachings, my understanding and what I was taught in a Catholic faith, I always wondered, why was Mother Mary, oh dear Mother Mary, why is it you just got so ripped off in this whole story? Because I just felt like she never got the attention nor the respect that she should have gotten for whom she created. And so that's another thing, the Madonna Interfaith Ministry, like the name is what like really drew me in, the whole thing. the Madonna, respect for the feminine divine, the interfaith, no judgment. It's not, this religion that's the right way. It's, you know, people from all different walks of life coming together. And I think that's the beauty in us.
Cindy, have you read Blessed Among Women?
I certainly have. I have my own copy. Yes.
Good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that. I'm very intrigued with your
Great.
story.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Nice to know
was-
you deeper. Yeah.
It was fun. And thank Laura, because if it wasn't for Laura pushing me, who was not a kind of person that liked to push, I really didn't want to become a Reiki master because I never saw myself as a teacher. And I kept on telling Laura, I'm not a teacher. But I did master. Have I, have I mastered anybody? No, but I send them to Laura.
Well, there are teachers and there are teachers.
Mhm.
You teach in a different way. That's all.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
space holders can also be teachers.
Right.
Yes.
You
Well,
don't
thank you.
you don't need to have their credentials or a mastership, because you exemplified with the 60-pound woman when you touched her. The love energy from you transmitted to her, and that relaxed her. So you don't need a pedigree for that.
Oh, thank you, Charlie.
Good point. What did the Beatles say? All you need is love.
Yeah. Yep.
A lot of wisdom in those
Was
lyrics.
so cool. I thought that was so cool at Jimmy Carter's funeral that they sang the song Imagine.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. I thought that was nice
Yeah.
too.
And I loved his 49-year-old grandson's eulogy about being ethical and the character that he was. And he was the same with anybody, whether
Hmm.
leaders or members of his family.
Hmm.
He was just a good man.
Mm. And very faith-based, and he didn't mind letting people know that, which was beautiful.
Yeah. But look what he created in Habitat for Humanity. I mean, that is
Oh,
just
yeah.
such an amazing program. We have a house up the street from us that was built by Habitat, and it's beautiful. It's not shoddy. I watched them build it, and the workmanship was incredible. And a young woman and her child, I think she got two children, were able to move in, and they've been
Mhm.
able to stay there. And it's their home. Yeah, they're in the middle of a trailer park, but they don't care, you know. But that program itself is just such an amazing, beautiful thing to give to the world, and he created it and supported
Mhm.
it probably till his death. Knowing
Right.
him, he probably left a legacy to keep it going.
Behind, I'm
Mm.
sure.
And
He was
Nikki, your habitat looks very fundamental and basic. No insulation, very thin walls.
It's a tiny
Right.
house and it's got screens. It's an open air setup.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
You
I
can
love
do a
living
lot of
like
posts in Hawaii, right? Because the weather is perfect for it.
It is. Even when it rains, it kind of comes in droves and then gets sunny in between, and it's like fresh and, delightful always.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Mhm.
What are we going to do next week?
Next week we have B is going to be interviewed by Carrie.
Great.
And then the week after is Terry. So we've got our January is full.
Good.
Wonderful.
And Charlie, I had a conversation yesterday with my stepson, who is an energy expert, and he will be sending me information on companies that might want to rent our land or whatever. So I'm going to be sending that to Nikki so she can share with you, because that's what he does. He's been doing it for 20 or 30 years for a living. He used to work for Building Green in Vermont. So he's very knowledgeable about companies that do things like that. And I said, help. And he goes, I'll send you a bunch of contacts that So I'm going to be sending those to Nikki. So watch out for those.
Yeah,
Um,
wonderful.
yeah.
Glad to
But he
hear it.
also thought that selling the property and finding some place in Hawaii would be really cool.
Yeah, you can grow anything here.
Yeah, which might not be a bad idea. But anyway, I just wanted to give you that update because I don't see him very often, but it was our Christmas meeting in Vermont yesterday. So I said, well, I got you. Let me ask you.
Yeah,
So he's going to be sending some info of various types of companies that, but
yeah,
he said the downside is you're not going to make a lot of money and you don't own it. They do. So, but we're going to investigate. I just thought you'd want to
yeah.
know.
Yeah, and we want to look at all angles because I've also had other offers for people who would come in and take the deed, but then give us a percentage back of whatever they earn. And it's like, I'm not sure if we're ready for that, but there's a reason to do it. But I would really investigate that deeply before we ever decided such a thing. But I
Yeah.
really
Yeah, I don't
wanna
like
see,
that take the deed part. I don't know.
yeah, I
I
know.
don't like that either.
Doesn't that
It,
give them legal access to do anything with the land they want?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of things developing as to what the future of ownership is because there's this
Mhm.
philosophy of it's the top 1%, land ownership is top of the hierarchy. We don't
Right.
necessarily want that, but it is what is today. And so it's like we want to hang on to that until we know what we're doing to
Mhm.
evolve to
Right.
whatever the next step is, whether it's ownership of something else or this or building it out or leasing it or whatever we decide to do. But we'll give it a lot of research and we'll give
Mhm.
everybody choice. We'll all get to vote. And we did talk about a little bit on the marketing call on Friday about, even if it was in Hawaii, it might be difficult for some people to get to us. And so we would need to consider the cost of such a thing and whether that's practical or, so we'll weigh everything and everybody gets to have a say.
Cost of getting the 29 pounds would be expensive too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Although
True.
I've been looking into like 6-month cycles of crop development. So hemp as a textile and or building material product
Hmm.
can grow within 6 months. And then there's another one, where was it? It grew within 3 months. But if we can get grow cycles to be really short and become a bit of a production facility, there's a real dire need for production of things like hemp or bamboo or these other types of materials that grow pretty fast. So
Yeah.
I'm going to research that and see if it makes sense to become a production facility so everybody else around that's doing the growing can have a place to send it. And so that's a possibility as well.
Mm. Yeah, because bamboo grows quite quickly too.
Yeah. Yeah. We're
It's a
growing
Right.
it here
weed.
on this land. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a weed. Well, even here in New England,
Hmm.
um, it takes over if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that knotweed too. Ugh, Japanese
Yeah.
knotweed is like, but I'm sure there's fibers in that you could use too. So
Definitely. Definitely.
And
cool.
things probably grow much faster in Hawaii where everything's being
They
closed.
definitely do.
That's
Yes.
true. That's
We
true.
compost and things turn within a week. It's like it's already
Wow,
degrading in a week. It's like
that's
amazing.
great.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Well, thank you again, Cindy. That was
Yes.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Cindy.
very
Thank you.
interesting, inspiring, and
Yeah.
got to know you better.
Yeah,
All righty. Well, thank you
wonderful.
guys.
Mhm.
Everybody have a great week.
Thank you.
You too,
Here.
We'll see you next week.
See you next
Bye-bye.
week.
God
Bye.
willing.
Aloha.